Thank you for joining us today. My name is Ravi Krishnan. I'm responsible for the solutions engineering at SnapLogic Americas. And I'm excited to be joined by our partners, Blue Altair team. We have Preetham Baumik and Joe Kirkham joining us today. So today we'll be discussing how higher education institutions can move beyond AI experimentation and begin building the foundation for a scalable and governed AI across the universities. A few of the housekeeping items. It'd be great if you can use the chat window to tell us your name and where you're joining from. Throughout the course of the session, you can drop any questions that you have in the Q&A section or the Q&A tab of this webinar. And yes, all the registrants will receive the webinar recording at the end of the session in place. So here's what we have planned for today's session. We'll begin by looking at the current state of higher education and some of the pressures various institutions are navigating today. We'll then discuss what a modern AI-enabled university operating model can look like and review several high-impact AI opportunities, whether it's enrollment, advancement, student access, or other operations in place. From there, we'll walk through a couple of demonstrations, followed by the supporting solution architecture of how things are being built, and finish up with a practical framework for moving from AI experimentation to institutional scale. Before we begin, we would like to get a quick understanding of our audience. We'd love to hear from you. So here is a quick question. What is the biggest barrier to moving your AI projects from pilots to production in your institution? Is it the disconnected data and systems? Is it governance security concerns? Or is it lack of ownership, restricted resources in terms of IT or integration? And lastly, whether it's around proving measurable business impact. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to respond, and we will reference those results as we move forward towards our today's discussion. The poll results are coming in, so 20 more seconds. Please let us know. We would love to hear from you and want to make sure we reference this as part of our presentation webinar. Okay, the results have come in. I think the top one talks about governance, security, and compliance concerns. Just true, this is exactly what I'm hearing from other enterprises, other higher ed institutions as well, followed by a lack of clear use cases. And we're going to cover that. That's amazing. And the last one was around limited IT or integration resources in place. So thank you, everyone, for participating. It's always interesting to see these challenges vary across different institutions. But one thing that I consistently see or find is that moving AI into production requires more than just access to AI technology. So with that, I'll hand it over to Preetham, who's going to walk us through the current state of higher education and some of the key pressures that institutions are facing today. Over to you, Preetham.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. Now, if you're in this room, you are likely facing the exact same pressure we see across the entire higher education landscape right now, which is the mandate to become AI ready. Now, let's be honest. Personal AI is amazing for our isolated day-to-day tasks. Whether you are a CIO drafting a strategy or a faculty summarizing research, we have all grown used to these models and they work impressively well. But here is the hard truth we see every day in the enterprise architecture world. When we take that exact same AI and scale it to enterprise levels, it breaks. Now look at some of the numbers on the screen. 53% of AI projects are abandoned, moving from pilot to production. Adoption is rising, which is great, but failing to drive ROI or business value ultimately defeats the purpose. So, why does it fail? Because personal AI doesn't necessarily need systems or data integration, but enterprise AI relies entirely on it. Another metric is less than 20% of organizations have do not have the right architecture. In higher education, your tools are ready. So everyone is procuring, let's say, a Copilot or a Chat GPT, a Claude or a Gemini right now. But your institutional data, which is your student information systems, your learning management systems, your data warehouses, your CRMs, are all deeply fragmented. What's missing is the integration infrastructure and the architecture. Without it, governed AI is unreachable. The core takeaway for today is that agentic AI is rarely an intelligence problem. It is almost entirely an integration problem. If that is why enterprises fail, we need to look at what this failure actually costs your university on a daily basis. We know all the macro pressures on the top. You live them every day: operating deficits, the enrollment cliff, and funding resets. The natural reflex to these pressures is to innovate quickly. But that innovation hits a brick wall right in the middle of the screen, which we call the legacy bottleneck. When our team at Blue Altair looked under the hood at most enterprises, we saw this exact gap. We saw a heavy reliance on, let's say, for example, 24-hour batch processing, brittle point to point API integration, and unregulated shadow AI pipes. Now, for the IT leaders on this call, you know this architecture traps around 70% of your budget just to keep the lights on. But for the academic and business leaders, this is the root cause of your daily friction. This architecture is why your early warning student models fail. You cannot accurately predict which students are at risk of dropping out if the model cannot access real-time student information data. It's also why your advancement teams miss vital donor outreach windows, and there are many such examples that we have covered later. So the greatest bottleneck to institutional innovation isn't the lack of AI tools. It is the brittle integration architecture that is starving those AI tools of data. Now we know why this fragmentation happens, and it always starts with the best of intentions. In phase one, the incentive is speed. Facing mandates to become AI ready, departments bypass central IT to buy niche SaaS tools. For example, you might have a law school or an athletics department procuring their own CRM because the priority is autonomy and speed. Now, this leads to phase two, which is the sprawl. Your campus stack swells to hundreds of discrete applications. You create shadow data silos that IT cannot simply audit, secure, or govern. We were looking at a metric where it said large universities on average have more than 800 discrete applications running, which triggers phase three, which is the execution gap. When departments try to move these AI tools from pilots to production, these agents hallucinate and fail. Why? Because they cannot access real-time systems of record because they are not integrated. This exact gap is what drives the 53% abandonment rate we saw earlier. The critical takeaway: departmental speed is a strategic liability without a shared architectural foundation at its core. Now, let's move out of the abstract and look at exactly how this transformation plays out in the real world. When Blue Altair partnered with University of Florida, we focused on their advancement and fundraising operations. This is a division where speed, relationships, and context are the literal difference between a missed opportunity and a major endowment. But they were hitting the exact legacy bottleneck we just diagnosed. Their CRM and their institutional data warehouse were operating in complete silos. For the business leaders on this call, you know the pain of data lags. An advancement officer might sit down with a major prospective donor, but the dossier they rely on is 24 to 48 hours out of sync. They are missing vital real time data for cultivation. This is exactly where the combined power of Blue Altair and SnapLogic changes the equation. Blue Altair came in and provided the architectural blueprint. We mapped the complex business logic, defined the strict governance structures, and architected the foundation. But to actually execute that vision at scale, University of Florida deployed SnapLogic's intelligent automation platform. Using SnapLogic as the engine, we stripped out manual workarounds and engineered an automated unified fabric bridging the CRM and the data warehouse gap. The immediate outcome was revenue growth. Advancement officers could make faster, highly informed decisions. But just as importantly, we established governed trust. The data was finally compliant, secure, and auditable. But here is why this matters to our conversation today. By solving this integration gap, the University of Florida didn't just fix a reporting headache. They became agentic ready. Because their data is now real time and governed, they possess the exact architectural foundation required to deploy AI tomorrow. Now, let's see with that information what AI enables for you. So, what happens when we actually put this unified data foundation into production? It creates a complete paradigm shift. Let's look at the student. They currently suffer from self-service fatigue, bouncing between disconnected portals. You have an admissions portal, you have a housing portal, and that overwhelms not only the student, but also your on-call L1 support. By unifying this data, we deploy RAG-enabled chatbots that securely query your student information systems for immediate context-aware answers. For faculty and advisors in this webinar, you spend hours cross-referencing your student information system with your learning management system to find at-risk students. That is a massive administrative debt. We solve this with governed AI that synthesizes risk signals and pre-drafts your intervention plans. Your staff goes from doing data entry to actually becoming mentors to your students. And finally, for operations, we eliminate the manual rekeying of PDF transcripts into, let's say, your CRM. We deploy AI agents to automatically read, parse, and route that unstructured data directly into your CRM solution. And you're going to see this modern operating model in action shortly. We have covered the how, but now let's look at the what. But remember, technology is only half the equation. An AI model doesn't yield results without strategy or governance. And that's exactly where Blue Altair partners with you. These are the top 10 high-impact use cases we see across institutions. These aren't hypotheticals. We have already built the unified data foundations and are actively moving them into the agentic phase. For example, in revenue growth, we see an incredible demand around alumni engagement, using AI to autonomously identify high-value donors and draft hyper-personalized outreach. Over in the student experience quadrant, it's about retention, deploying models that predict high-risk student based on real-time data to enable proactive intervention before a student drops out. Similarly, you have use cases around highly sensitive areas such as risk, fraud, and data governance which is a burning topic for information security and risk compliance officers. In a nutshell, driving measurable ROI on these requires deep strategy and change management. So if any of these align with your goals, please reach out and we will be happy to discuss a customized roadmap for you. But you don't have to just imagine it. Let's see that exact orchestration play out in action. With that, I will hand it over to Joe for a demo. Thank you.
Thank you, Preetham. So from those 10 AI use cases that Preetham discussed, we've got a couple demos we're going to show. For each of these scenarios, I'll first the context about the problem statement and specific use case, and then I'll go into a demo from the end user's perspective. All right. So this first demo is something we're calling the moneymaker, which focuses on fundraising in higher ed, or you'll see us refer to it as advancement. So this demo is near and dear to me as someone who's spent several years on the data side of higher ed fundraising or advancement. So one problem in this space is that there are a ton of data points that are used to help prospect donors, like alumni information, what was their major, fundraising history, contact history, other philanthropic giving, event attendance, wealth information, and all these data points are coming together from different sources at different cadences. So researchers and fundraisers have to spend a ton of time in reporting tools like Tableau or Cognos, or even just exporting to Excel in order to identify prospects instead of actually taking the time to strategize for and build relationships with those prospects, and ultimately with the goal of securing funding for the university. So what if we could be more agile with that? Could agentic architecture help with that? So let's assume that we've got all of these data points accessible from our common data fabric that is connected to a natural language chat. We're going to use Claude in this demo, but you can imagine it being connected to any interface, even a custom one, connected to any LLM, even custom ones that you have access to. So I'm going to assume the role of a fundraising officer, or maybe if you're in a larger advancement shop, a dedicated prospect researcher on a dedicated prospect research team, who's looking to identify an open dialogue with potential donors or prospects. I'm also going to quickly caveat for anyone who's familiar with advancement that the demo we're presenting here is really compressed in terms of workflow and in terms of time. Typically, you don't go from the initial stage of the prospect pipeline, the identification stage, all the way through to communication or solicitation over the span of a few emails or prompts like we're going to here. But we're just compressing it down so that you can get an idea of the types of tasks that can be accelerated by this kind of agentic architecture. So with that, let's get to the actual demo. I am going to pop in this prompt and say, use our advancement prospecting assistant to provide a list of 3 individuals that meet the following criteria: a new job title, a C-suite job title like CEO, CFO, COO within the last month, total historical donations of 25K or greater, and a propensity score of 90 or higher. A propensity score is just an amalgamation of other data points, like again, previous giving. Are they an alumnus of the university? Do they have connected relationships to other people? Like, are they parents of of students in the university? Things like that. So I'll send this in, and voila. In the matter of seconds there, it gave me a list of 3 people: David Davis, Laura Pulisic-Balagan, and Thomas von Nistelrooy, who all have new titles, CEO, CFO, COO, within the last month, like I requested, with over 25K of donations and a propensity score of 90 or higher. I could go into Salesforce and show you all these, that they are not, hallucinated or anything. I promise they're not. And it gives us some information here about who David Davis, Laura Pulisic-Balagan, and Thomas von Nistelrooy are, and it highlights that David Davis is the standout here. Notice too that it's giving me a question: do I want to log these as a case in Salesforce? The underlying tool or the underlying tools we've exposed to Claude here have a case creation bit to it. That's why it's asking me that, and we will do that, but just in a couple minutes. So yeah, in a matter of just seconds there, we got this list, and instead of having to look for the correct reports across, a bunch of reporting tools, edit report prompt, export and filter the data in Excel, compare things, do VLOOKUPs, all that nonsense. And we're not working with stale data, right? It's all connected directly to, whatever sources we've got connected to our data fabric. We just got this information like that, and we can trust that it's not stale. So before we do this case bit that it suggested, let's prep an outreach email. So I'm going to pop in this prompt. Let's focus on David Davis. Pull his complete dossier, including his affinity area for the university, which we did already get in this last pull, and draft an outreach email suggesting an endowment for an initiative in that area. Oh, and it says I don't even need to do that. All right. I do want to point out, too, something I forgot to mention. This underlying tool here, Fetch the Prospects. This is a tool that we've built in SnapLogic, and it only has read access to Salesforce data and a couple of Snowflake tables. It does not have the ability to create, update, or delete records in those objects, tables, or any other parts of our data model, right? It's really tightly guardrailed, and that's an important thing, right? You don't want the AI to like hallucinate. Did you want me to delete everybody that wasn't in that criteria set? Even if it did hallucinate that in some nightmare scenario, it physically cannot do that because the tools that are exposed to Claude here don't have that capability. Cool. So remember I asked it to draft an outreach email and provide the dossier. So here's the complete dossier. And here is David's the outreach email. And actually it's given us 1, 2, 3 possible email drafts depending on with different tones. We'll just go with this first one. Congrats on your recent appointment as CEO. Your connection to engineering has been a great deal to our community over the years. We're currently exploring new opportunities to establish a new endowed initiative. Would you be open to a conversation in the coming weeks? So again, you probably wouldn't want this to be fired off immediately, right? You'd want to maybe take some time to strategize with your researcher or your manager or other colleagues. So rather than have this send out, and again, it physically cannot because we don't have a tool there that will do that. You could have one if you wanted, but maybe not the best move. We're going to do what it asked us to do, or asked us what we wanted, if we wanted to do this. We're going to say, this looks perfect. Log it in Salesforce as a pending case and write the entire first email draft included in the case description. We want to make sure there's a human in the loop touch point here. Again, it's logging a case in Salesforce, which is a tool we've exposed to it from SnapLogic, to Claude from SnapLogic. And this does have create privileges on the case object in Salesforce, but it's very tightly guardrailed. It can only do certain things. It can only create prospecting cases in this instance. So again, after just a second, it says I've successfully created a case. I can copy that ID, go to Salesforce, pop that case ID in the URL there. Cool trick about Salesforce, if you didn't know, you can just throw it in after your force.com and it'll take you to it. And boom, there it is. David Davis case is in the status of working. It's assigned to me, which is cool. And it says the email that we asked it to include in the description of the case. So awesome. That is the end of demo 1. And just to summarize, in a really short time span there, we were able to lubricate that prospecting pipeline. And we bypassed the need to trawl through multiple reports and screens. And any newly available data is accessible immediately because it's all connected to our data fabric. And SnapLogic can communicate with that immediately. through the which we were able to do through our agent here. Cool. So that is the end of the first demo. I am going to go back to the home screen here and shift a couple things around. Okay. So our second demo, we're calling the enrollment driver, and this is focusing on academic advising for prospective students. The problem statement here is that students looking for information on whether or not they're a competitive applicant for a particular program at our university or any generic university have to anxiously await for responses from academic advisors who are themselves having to spend precious time parsing resumes, comparing them to course curricula, and averaging grades. And this information is notoriously siloed across different sources and systems. So again, how can agentic AI help streamline this process? And also, how can we ensure, as a twist for this one, for this demo, how can we ensure that our agents are accessing this data in a secure and auditable, traceable way, right? We talked in the last demo about how we created tools that were very tightly guardrailed, couldn't run amok in our raw tables and source systems. But how do we make it so that, or can we do this in a way that is auditable and traceable, so we know exactly what our agents are doing with the data that's being given to it or that it's getting access to? Okay, so with that, we are going to assume the role of a prospective student to Acme University. We've got a pretty straightforward resume academic profile here for the very consistently named John Johnson. He's got an overall GPA of 3.84, graduating next May. Here's some coursework, some skills, and some other information to round out, pad out our resume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into Claude, and I'm going to say, please use the admissions eligibility assessor to determine if I am a competitive candidate or competitive applicant for your computer engineering program. I have attached my resume as a PDF. And I'm actually going to attach it this time instead of 9 times out of 10 when I say I'm going to attach something to an email and don't, and then in shame, I have to send a follow-up email. So again, the Claude is telling us what tools it's using. In this case, it's using what's called the detail abstraction tool. This is a PDF parser that we built, and you can, today in native Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, you can put in an unstructured data like a PDF and it'll parse it for you. But this one is specifically meant to, it's looking for specific data and it's going to repackage that data in a way that the other tools can consume more efficiently. So cool. It then did an eligibility check tool, which was comparing our data that it parsed from the PDF against course requirements that we have in a Postgres table connected to the underlying tools. And it gets back to us again pretty quickly here. Good news, you're eligible. Here's the breakdown. You had a 3.84. The required GPA is 3.5. Here are the required courses. And look, you've got them all. And it's not even our senior year. Look at that. Overall status, eligible for the BS Computer Engineering program. Cool. So again, after just a second there, we got a really quick automated response. And notice down here, it says, since you've been found eligible, I can notify an academic advisor of your inquiry so they can follow up with you directly. Would you like me to go ahead with that? And I'll say, yes, please. Be very polite to your agents. And there it goes. So again, this is a really important concept, the human in the loop touch point, where we want to make sure that a highly qualified candidate such as ourselves, the esteemed John Johnson, can get contacted by an actual academic advisor who may, take whatever necessary steps are required, to follow up and encourage our application to the university. And Perfect timing. Done. An academic advisor has been notified and will follow up with you using the email or phone number from your resume. Good luck. So now we're going to actually shift perspectives a little bit. Instead of being the student, we are going to be in the role of the bespoke academic advisor. And we're going to go back to Salesforce here. Again, we're using cases as a generic queue. And we've got a list view here for advising cases. And boom, there's our advising case for John Johnson. I'm going to hop in here, and John Johnson has a cumulative GPA of 3.84, completed all prerequisite courses. Wunderbar. Now, as an academic advisor, I have this in my queue and I can get back to John, that important human in the loop touch point. Finally, I alluded to at the beginning of this demo setup that we wanted to make sure that our interactions with the the interactions that our agents have with our data are auditable and traceable. So we have a Postgres table here and called MCP Audit Trail. And if I rerun it now, we should see a couple different entries. Yes, we do. There we go. There's that first entry, ID 73, student detail extraction. That was the PDF parser. And so we know, okay, this is exactly what the PDF parser got out of the PDF and what it spat back out to the agent. And then the tool rules validation is the tool that was comparing the student's data against prerequisites. And this is what it gave back to the agent: the required courses, the GPA, the minimum GPA, the actual student's GPA, who is he, all that good stuff. So now, the reason why this happened is because in those underlying tools, the PDF parser and the tool that looked in the system and compared John's data against the requirements, there was a thread that pushed the information about what was happening to a Postgres table. And this isn't something that the agent could choose to do or not do. It is necessarily invoked by the tool when it runs, just by the way it's constructed. So you can be certain that these events are traceable. And that is the end of my demos. So thank you all very much for your time. And please put whatever questions you have down into the chat. And I am now going to turn it over to Ravi. Thank you.
Ravi, sorry to interrupt. You're muted.
Thank you, Preetham. No, great demo, Joe. Thank you for that. With that, team, let's now peel the onion to figure out what's the underlying solution architecture that powered this demo. So I want to start up with the what I call as the AI experience gap. Joe showed us the Claude demo, right, where you could use the AI tool to perform all the different operations. That's awesome. That's what employees and everybody wants to use, right? The tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc. But enterprises today or institutions are not ready to provide those tools to the employees or for the people to start using them. It's not about lack of motivation or an interest. It's the architecture. And I think the poll questions directly answered those. Many of y'all, in fact, that was the top one that came up from the polling results, was around governance, security, and compliance concerns, where the security team is not willing to open these up for them. So this mismatch of the AI experience gap that I'm talking about, right, where people want to use the tools that they love and want to work with, and enterprises preventing them is causing frustration and leading to employees missed productivity and stuff. So enterprises must fix those things. So how does SnapLogic fix those problems? So let's get this into the details of the architecture. So today, like we discussed, the institutional's data is scattered across variety of different applications, right? You have your student data in Banner, you have your career tracking in LinkedIn, analytics information in Snowflake, right? Marketing data in Marketer, you name those. Your data is scattered all of these different places. What SnapLogic gives you the ability is to connect to all of these different data sources. SnapLogic provides you with a rich set of certified institutional connectors that gives enterprises the ability to connect to all of these different systems. Now, I would be lying if I say that SnapLogic has got a connector for every single application out in the market. It's practically impossible because with the rise of AI and other things, there are new applications that are being brought up every single day. So what SnapLogic really focuses on is these foundational connectors. So yes, we do have a rich set of certified institutional connectors, but for those which we do not have, we have foundational connectors like REST-based, API-based, database-based, streaming connectors. So given an application, you would now have the ability to connect to any of those different applications. But once connected, we help you build the integration pipelines that helps you movement of the data. We provide you with a single converged platform that brings together a service-driven, event-driven, and a data-driven architecture. And why is this important? Today, when we look into AI perspective, and especially with all the chat agents that's floating around, you need to be able to ask questions that supports real-time integrations or operational integration, connecting to your Salesforce or NetSuite or Marketer to get those. But you also need analytical information that does huge computing, processing, data transformations, right? Or streaming. Now, the reality is today, institutions have a variety of different tools to support each one of those different integration needs. You have a tool for API or an iPaaS based integration. You have a tool for EDL and ELT. You have a tool for streaming. You name those. Now, this fragmentation of integration tool has really impacted the ability for enterprises to realize the true value of AI, because now AI has to work across all of these different integration tool sets. Now, this is where SnapLogic has really converged all those integration styles into one single unified platform. So you can focus on data that means business and not have to worry about all these different fragmented integration tools in place. Now, these facilitate or simplify the building of integration pipelines with Integration Copilot, which is what we call as a Snap GPT. The definition of speed and the faster time to market has changed from what it was earlier to what it is today. Earlier, people had to learn the product. Today, the product should learn from you. So we give you an integration copilot where you can have a simple natural language conversation, and SnapLogic would build the entire integrations from simple to complex for your enterprises. We also extend that simplicity by bringing you a cognitive fabric. Now, as part of your integration pipelines, you now have the ability to call external LLMs of your choice to be able to augment intelligence as part of your data movement. So when Joe showcased the demo of him uploading a student's resume, right? SnapLogic pipelines internally was able to call the LLMs and be able to augment intelligence of it, sentiment analysis, you name those. We give you the cognitive fabric for you to be able to augment intelligence by calling any external LLMs of your choice. So now that we have built integrations, we have simplified building the integrations. The big problem that we are seeing today from enterprises is because a platform like SnapLogic can enable people to build integrations much quicker than ever, people are building integrations left and right. A left hand doesn't know what the right hand is building. The end result being is people are rebuilding those integrations or pipelines which has already been built before. That's because there is a lack of visibility on what assets are already created. This is where SnapLogic provides you with what we call as an asset catalog. Every integration pipeline that is being built inside the SnapLogic platform is now being cataloged. So if a new user were to come in and build an integration to a source, to an application, to a destination, they can come to the asset catalog, search for all the assets that are available, and quickly discover what's present so they can easily start reusing them. The one big challenge that I hear from enterprises is they're constantly looking to modernize their application stack, right? Today they are in one version of CRM, tomorrow they want to get a modern version of CRM. It's not about procuring these applications, it's about what are the underlying pipelines that are connected to these applications? What would be the impact analysis for it? Enterprises are struggling with this. And this is where SnapLogic's asset catalog gives you a complete visibility of not just your pipelines, but what these pipelines are connected to, etc. So you can have a complete impact analysis as well as a simple reusability. So enterprises can build integrations much quicker and faster and deliver the business results in place. So now that these pipelines are built, SnapLogic gives you the ability to get the lineage of those data flowing through those pipelines. With the rise of microservices, with the rise of agentic development, you have decoupled pipelines. No longer people are building monolithic pipelines or a single pipeline, right? Now the big challenge is the data gets transformed, data arrives. But now they want to be able to see what really caused this data to come in this specific format. And this is where SnapLogic out of the box provides you with the lineage capabilities. Every pipeline that you build emits a lineage for that particular of the data from those particular pipelines. So this way, you have the ability to correlate and see exactly what happened to those particular data and what made those data come in this particular format. We export these data lineage in a simple open lineage spec. So thereby giving you the ability to integrate those lineage data with any data cataloging solutions of your choice, whether it's Calibra, Alation, or any open source tools like DataHub in this case. So now that the pipelines are built, the pipelines are provided with lineage ability. On a single click, these pipelines are being exposed as an API and can also be exposed as an MCP layer. So the demo that you saw with Joe using a Claude desktop to ask all those questions was actually using MCP, which was powered by SnapLogic. So the simple integration pipelines that you build or any complex integration pipelines that you build on a single click, these pipelines can be exposed as an MCP server, making it available for consumption, whether it's by the agents of your choice, like popular assistants like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or the agents that are built within your ecosystem applications like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workato, Marketo, you name those. Now, one thing that everybody called out as part of the poll was security and governance. He said, yes, Ravi, these AI tools are great, but how does this tool know whether it's Ravi who is accessing it or is Joe who is accessing that particular interface? Because you want to make sure that the right person has got right access to the right data at any given point of time. This is where SnapLogic provides you with the security gateway, where any of those MCP servers or the endpoints that are being exposed is wrapped with a security gateway where we provide you with a complete access control, security, and analytics on top of it. So which means when Ravi logs in or accesses it, Ravi is being authenticated. That token or the authorization information is passed down all the way to SnapLogic. SnapLogic receives that, works with the IDP, in this case, identity management provider, to facilitate token exchange, to get the right token, and then it goes to all these backward applications, thereby enforcing a complete trust and security end to end. This is how many enterprises today, finance, healthcare, you name, where data sensitivity or privacy is important, are using SnapLogic because of the security and governance that we provide on top of it. Now that this is provided, like I said, could now be made available to any AI agents of your choice. The popular agents or the agents embedded within your applications to provide that rich engagement experiences to your stakeholders, whether it's internal or external to your organization. That's a SnapLogic platform that fuels the underlying demo that you just saw, as well as the whole AI-powered initiative, enabling enterprises to move from pilots to production in a safe and a secure manner in place. So with that, I want us to wrap it up to the next level. So now that you have seen the Blue Altair's solution offering, and you have seen the SnapLogic's architecture, universities don't need another AI pilot. They need a repeatable way to operationalize AI across enrollment, advancement, student services, and various other institutional operations. So, like you saw from the architecture, SnapLogic provides the secure integration, automation, and the trusted AI execution platform, which is what enterprises are looking for. And Blue Altair brings the higher education expertise, the governance frameworks, and implementation methodologies required to align these capabilities with institutional priorities. Together, SnapLogic and Blue Altair help universities move from isolated AI experiments to a measurable institutional outcomes. So, to finally wrap it up, I want to leave you all with a practical framework for moving from AI experimentation to institutional scale. So, we provide a 90-day program. In the first 30 days, the focus is on assessment and prioritization. We understand that universities are not new to AI. Many universities already have AI initiatives underway. Our goal in the first 30 days would be to understand what's already happening, identify integration and governance gaps, which is what you all talked about, and prioritize high impact use cases. In the next 30 days, the focus shifts towards execution. At this point, we really work towards helping you connect your systems and data sources to help establish the required security and governance controls and help identify the measurable business outcomes using real institutional data. And finally, in the days of 61 to 90, in the last month, the focus is around operationalization and scale. This is where we help productionizing successful use cases, establishing your AI governance standards, expanding provable capabilities across your departments, and so on. So essentially, the objective here is not just simply to launch another AI copilot. The goal here is to establish a repeatable operating model that allow institutions like yours to scale AI safely, securely with measurable business outcomes. With this, team, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope this discussion has provided you with some practical insights into how institutions can move from AI experimentations to real institutional impact. With this, we'll open up for questions and answer them. There are some questions coming up, Preetham and Joe. We want to take those.
Absolutely. I think, Joe, the first question is how are you using Superbase in the demo? So probably you can answer that one.
Yeah, just to set up the tables that were used for referencing the program requirements and the setting up the audit trail. And it's connected via SnapLogic's Postgres snaps.
Any other questions, team? This is an opportunity. We have a few minutes left. So if you have any questions about the demo, the solution architecture, or the different kinds of solutions that Blue Altair provides helping institutions, we'll be happy to help answer those right now. Okay, there's a question from Tyler. When having the agent access Salesforce, is it doing so via service account? And if so, how do you manage a given user's access to different data domains? That is, can someone in the biology department see case info in the computer engineering department? Let me take this and then I'll hand it over to Preetham and Joe to take this even further. Now, with any security systems, I think the first question is the access controls, right? So what we do is anytime a user is logging into the platform, we capture that information. We exchange that information with IDP to figure out who the person is and be able to do that. Now, if I were to just use a simple service account, it becomes very challenging because service account is going to shield all the underlying thing inside it. But we do have mechanisms where, in addition to using service accounts, we can have ways to incorporate or capture the user who is using or who is behind the service account to help understand the information. And this is where Jot and other things comes in. But by just simply using a service account by itself may not be possible, because at the end of the day, it's a service account that's talking to your backend application. We need to have some sort of a user identity to be present for us to be able to access that information. Happy to take this and discuss this further, Tyler, to showcase how SnapLogic architecture can help with this. Preetham or Joe, anything you would like to add to this?
No, I think you covered it, Ravi. I think from a very simple answer right now can be treat your agents like humans. Whatever privileges you give to your humans across departments. For example, if I am from, as you said, I'm from the biology department, I shouldn't be able to access computer engineering's data. Similarly, your agents also have to have those kind of privileges, those kind of permissions. So when you start thinking in that space, think of agent not as a software program, but someone who is actively helping you as a person. I think that simplifies a lot of things. And obviously, there's a lot of strategy around it, which we can help you with. But as Ravi said, the platform, which is SnapLogic, enables it by default internally as well. Okay, I see a couple of questions on Q&A. How can you run Python codes from SnapLogic? That's a straightforward answer. SnapLogic by default provides out of the box connectors or snaps, as we call them, and you can easily extend the platform to run any kind of custom code that you have as well. If there's any specific kind of scenario that you're asking about, we are happy to answer that as well. But at this stage, I think that's the easiest answer I can give you. Another question that we have is, will the disparate data sources, many data orgs have EDW? How would that fit into your architecture? Joe, probably you can take that example, because data warehouse is something that you deal with on a day-to-day basis with your advancements as well. So probably, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it can just plug directly in to your data fabric. You can either have data import to your data warehouse, to be directly to be consumed for whatever purposes you might have in there for analytics, or it can sit. Yeah. I mean, it just plugs into the data fabric. Ravi, I don't know if you have a better way to answer that.
Sure. I think just trying to understand this question, right? So I'm going to read it again, Amy. Will the disparate data sources, many data orgs have EDW? How would that fit into it? So we would consider EDW, your enterprise data warehouse, as another touch point or a source to which SnapLogic is going to connect to. SnapLogic already provides a rich set of EDW connectors, whether it's Snowflake, Databricks, you name those, giving you the ability to ingest data as well as push data back to them. Now, lately, people talk about ETL and ELT, right? Because when it comes to AI, you are sometimes having to work with a huge amount of data sets in place. SnapLogic provides you with full support for ETL, which is extract, transform, load, as well as ELT functions to support push down transformations inside. So to answer your question, yes, we do understand that not just operational data, but analytical data that's needed is stored in EDW, and SnapLogic provides you with native integration and processing capabilities with any EDW platforms in place. Hope that answered your question, Amy.
Another question coming in from Ashish. Yeah, we still have few minutes to go. So for institutions just starting to modernize, what is the single best quick win automation you recommend to build immediate stakeholder trust? This is a loaded question. It all depends on who you're building that automation for, what your goal is. As we said, we, as part of this webinar, we showed the top 10 high impact use cases. Obviously, a lot of thought goes into those use cases. These are various departments that have these disparate use cases. But something that adds immediate value that we have seen is something that is repeatable. That's the kind of way that you think about AI first. Don't try to solve a problem that probably a very highly experienced human is probably doing on his day to day, right? If you try to take that problem and try to solve it first, that goes into a lot of complexity initially. I think the first kind of step should always be to identify what processes there are, which the humans today, let's say your staff or your business leaders, are doing, that is consuming a lot of their time outside of their day-to-day responsibilities. Tasks that are common, that are repeatable, and which is kind of taking the value out of their day-to-day tasks, right? So if you identify those use cases first and see how to integrate your unified data fabric or your agentic AI, I think that solves your immediate sort of bottlenecks, which is freeing your staff so that they can focus on their day-to-day responsibilities, with the AI sort of augmenting and acting as their sort of an assistant in their day-to-day, right? That's my perspective on it. Ravi, if you have your own perspective, please share.
No, I think you covered it well, Preetham. Okay, with no other questions, I think we are almost on time. So if you have okay, I saw something else coming in. So let's see. Okay, great. Thank you again, team, and for joining in. I hope the session was useful. If you have additional questions that we could not cover today, please send them our way, and we will make sure to respond back. And we will also send over the recording to all the registrants who have attended today. So thank you again, Preetham and Joe, for joining and for giving a great presentation. And team, like I said, please reach out to us, and looking forward to connect with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers. Have a great one.